Hi guys, I'm Tracy. Thank you for joining me today. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over the new Rephr brushes I got. Two of them are new releases from this year, and then kind of do a second part going into more in depth of the history of the brush, kind of going back as far as I could possibly find documentation of, and kind of build on some of the ideas that I went into in my last video. Which also brings me to, I wanted to thank you guys so much for the overwhelming response to my last video. I kind of took a chance and I went down kind of a different path than what my previous videos are like, and you know, I've gotten so many views, comments, likes, and new subscribers, and the feedback has been so positive, and it just sounds like you guys are very interested in looking at the more historical, economical aspects of the brush. So I'm going to go into that in the second part of this video. So the four brushes I got, I just got them a couple days ago, so I've only really used one. I'll show you guys the eye brush that I got. Is the number 32, and it's one of these little angled eye brushes. I've never used one like this, so I'm not really sure. I forgot to use it today, but I don't know exactly how I'm going to use it, but probably because of the angle, I'm going to use it in the crease area here, like that, and then on the lower lash line, since it has that pretty nice point. See how it'll work to line the lower lash line. And then the other brush that I got was the 29. Oh, these were sent to me complimentary by Rephr, so thank you so much, Rephr, for sending me these brushes. And I believe this one comes complimentary with some of the holiday brush sets that they're putting out. And I wanted to compare it to the Chikuhodo PS2 Edge that I got in my last haul. And that is the only brush that is somewhat similar to the 29. And these are for like pushing liner and shadow into like the lash line. This one I have not really gotten the hang of. In comparison to that one, this one is very soft and flexible, if you can see that. And this one is a lot stiffer. So far this one hasn't been the most comfortable to use. So maybe I'm going to give this a try when I'm doing my eyeliner. So that's the 29. So far it does feel like it'll be a very useful brush. I also got the 31, which is their foundation brush, and I used it today for my foundation. It was really, really nice. It's very soft, softer than I thought it would be for somewhat dual fiber. I don't know if it's dual fiber because it doesn't look like there's different types of material, but it's, you know, it's got this slight angle. It's very soft. It feels like, just by doing this, it feels like the Sonia G Smooth Buffer, if I had to compare it to something. So this might even work for buffing and finishing powder. I haven't tried it for that yet. And I did my foundation. I kind of wanted to really like kind of perfect my skin, so I kind of used it in more of a pressing manner, and it didn't absorb a whole lot, which I'm very pleased with. And so far from the one use, I'm really enjoying this, and I would say so far it kind of exceeded my expectations for this brush. And the last brush, this is the one that I was very much interested in. I haven't used it yet, and that's the Rephr 30. It's their longest face brush that they've come out with, and it's 50 millimeters long, the hairs. And it's pretty dense, and it is very, very similar to the Hakuhodo J509, which I got in my last haul, which has been used and washed, so it looks much fluffier. But like feeling the density, it feels pretty similar, maybe a little less than the Rephr. And the softness, it feels the same. I believe the materials used are the same, except you can get this one for a lot less. So I do think if you're looking for a large fluffy powder brush, I do think this would make a very nice alternative to something like this. I haven't used it yet, so I can't vouch for that for sure. But so far, oh, it's shedding a little bit. I haven't washed it yet though. It does feel very soft and it's pretty flexible. Like when I'm doing this, not super dense. So if you're looking for like a really dense powder brush, this isn't it. I saw some hairs come out, but that's to be expected before using it. And then compare it to this one. Yeah, this one, there's more hairs in this one. I can tell. It just feels heavier and a little bit more resistance to the Rephr. So I'm really excited about this one. This is the one that I really wanted, that I asked them to send to me. So thank you so much, Rephr, for sending those brushes to me. So now I wanted to kind of build on what I went into in my last video, and I apologize if some of this is review, but I understand some of you might not have seen my previous videos. So the art of making a brush is an extremely ancient process. Now there's many conflicting facts of exactly when calligraphy was invented, when it began, and I think for a long time the consensus was it started a little over 2,000 years ago, maybe like 600 to 200 BC. And that's not, looking at the history of civilization, it's not that long ago. But more recently, with the advancement of technology and carbon dating and our ability to figure out exactly how old things are, there has been a brush that is now considered the oldest brush to be found. It's a Chinese calligraphy brush, can be tracked back at least 6,000 years. So 4,000 BC at least. The brush was unearthed in the tomb of Marquis Yi of the Zhang state in Hubei province. It's the earliest brush discovered so far. So the fact that it's 6,000 years old at least brings up a very interesting idea, I guess. And that is what we've been taught in history. Most of my kids are very excited. So what we've been taught in history is that the first human civilizations began in the Mesopotamian valley between the Tigris and Euphrates River, which is now, I believe, like Iraq, Syria, Kuwait. That is when the first human civilizations began. And before that, people were living as hunter-gatherers in a more primitive social structure, smaller family groups, things like that. But looking at this one brush found at this to be this old kind of makes me think that there were definitely organized societies in China before 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. Now, if there was a brush that was being used by someone or by people and it was a calligraphy brush, I really tried to look for a picture of this brush, could not find it. And I have my researcher downstairs looking for pictures of some of these things that I have not been able to find. I mean, my husband, but he's really good at finding these things online, but not been able to find that picture yet. But the way my perspective on this is that if there was calligraphy being written by someone or by people, that gives me the idea that there were facts being recorded. A lot of written text and pictures are often about recording facts. The ancient Egyptians did hieroglyphs explaining the history and the lives of the pharaohs. I do believe that there is a good chance there was actual calligraphy being written before 6,000 years ago. And this brush is kind of a little sign of that happening. Now, it's assumed that calligraphy was written on bone and tortoise shells. Paper had not been invented yet, although it was invented in China, but at a much later date. But if they were writing possibly facts about life, about historical events, that kind of makes me think that there was more than just a hunter-gatherer society. Writing calligraphy is, in my opinion, more advanced than chiseling hieroglyphs in a cave, or writing very more cavemanish like pictures in caves and on rock. And that really makes me think that there were advanced civilizations in China before they were in the Mesopotamian Valley. Now, there's so much conflicting information, and I find that with archaeology, a lot of times if they find something that goes against what the standard way of looking at history is, then a lot of times that information is kind of buried. It's not given attention and not given funding to really look into. But I think this is a process that is now being uncovered in more recent times, and I want to give you guys an example of something that has been found more recently that really solidifies the fact that civilization began before 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. There's a excavation site in Turkey called Göbekli Tepe, and originally they thought it was 10,000 years old, but now more recently they're finding that it's around 11,600 years old. So it was twice as long as what we originally thought. And this, I'm hesitating calling it a civilization because they're still uncovering it, and they're finding megalithic structures, these huge rock formations that were placed somehow, like, how we explain the pyramids of Giza. There's this sort of very shaky explanation of how these rocks were placed, but very difficult to believe. I personally don't believe that slaves quarried these stones, kilometers away, and cut them into these perfect squares and then placed them into a pyramid. I just do not believe that happened or is possible. Even today would be very difficult with all the technology we have. But that's there's a whole nother topic of what I think about that. But just knowing a little bit of information, like such as finding this ancient brush, I think can really write history a little differently than what we've been told in the history books. Now, I don't know if these history books will be changed in my lifetime, but there is certainly enough evidence to prove that the beginning of human civilization was not where we were originally told it was. And I believe that this happened all over the world. I'm not just talking about China. I think in the US, other parts of Europe, and in the Middle East. And I find this part of archaeology so intriguing, so interesting, and I will link some of Graham Hancock's podcasts and presentations down below if you guys want to learn more about it. He's mainly where I get a lot of this information, as well as a couple of other researchers. He's an author. He has been writing for I think close to 40 years now about this topic, and he's very passionate about this. He does talks all over the country. Some of you guys might know who he is. I found him on the Joe Rogan podcast. But I'll link some more information about his findings and his perspectives. There's just very fascinating perspectives that he has, and a lot of this is backed by evidence, looking at structures found in all corners of the world. And I can go on and on about the different topics and findings that he has been writing about, but that's going to go on forever, and it's about as long as I'm willing to make this video. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this content. Please let me know down below and like if this is something you want to see more of. And again, thank you guys so much for the huge response to my last video. That means so much to me, and I'm just so honored that you guys are enjoying this new type of content. So with that, I'm going to say bye.